argument. Okay, so actually, did he say that this is the strongest evidence for number one? So the idea, this explains number one, our existence. Number two, the purpose of life. So the idea of Tawheed is actually the strongest evidence. So he called that, he called Islamic Tawheed the strongest evidence that Islam is true. Ask him ask him about anyone who preached monotheism after Muhammad. Is that any evidence that any of these guys is a true prophet? No, none. That's what you find. Anything that you could say about Muhammad is conclusive proof that he's a prophet. Anything else, even if you could say it about anyone else in the world, it would be no proof at all. This is Islamic dawah, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute nonsense. But here we go. AP, you ready for this?
Yes.
Are you ready for Muhammad Hijab's powerful number two argument?
No.
This argument is number two. 100% number two. Powerful argument. Here we go.
Number one. Number two, look at the character and the prophet of the Prophet ﷺ. When you look at his life, you realize that the man was authentic through and through. And so when you start to realize that this was the receptacle of the message of Islam, the final message, that itself acts as evidence. But then you have so many different things.
Okay, now he's going on to other points. Let me back that up. That was his number two. So his number one is one God. This is the proof that Islam is true. His number two go-to argument. He's saying there's so many proofs of Islam. And again, guys, I was wondering, once they dropped the scientific miracles argument, once they dropped the perfect preservation argument, I was actually wondering what arguments would they use? What would they use? And here you have it. One God, that's the proof. Would this be proof of anyone else? Muhammad Hijab. Would this be proof of any other religion? Would this be proof of anyone else in history? Would saying one God be proof of anything ever? No, nowhere. Except in this one God. Muhammad said one God. Therefore, this is conclusive proof that Muhammad's a prophet. And so that we have that. And then we have, I'll just replay it, his case about Muhammad's character. Yes, you heard that correctly. He's using Muhammad's character as proof that he's a prophet. Here we go. Let's see it one more time, because I want everyone to know this is actually what he's claiming.
As evidence. Number one. Number two, look at the character and the prophet of the Prophet ﷺ. When you look at his life, you realize that the man was authentic through and through. And so when you start to realize that this was the receptacle of the message of Islam, the final message, that itself acts as evidence. But then you have so
that Muhammad's character shows that he was authentic through and through. And when he's the receptacle of a religion, this would mean that you can know that his religion is true. You heard that correctly.
I must apologize to people. In the recent past, during a live stream that we were having here, I briefly, as we were talking about religion, about belief and disbelief, and apologists and thinkers, I briefly referred to C.S. Lewis as not so great. I must now apologize very, very sincerely, because this immediately makes me think of one of the things of C.S. Lewis, one of his arguments, one of his very lengthy arguments. The whole, you know what I'm talking about, the Lord, liar, or lunatic argument, which he crafts and goes into and battles and explains in length. I personally do not think that it is very convincing. However, it is very solidly laid out and gone through in a very, very good way. And the issue is, when Muhammad Hijab now sits here and says, Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, he had excellent character, therefore this is proof that Islam is true. Okay. I immediately think of the contrast here, the comparison between this approach, which is a very typical Islamic approach, and then the other approach, which is to analyze Jesus, for example, and then figure out, okay, could it be that he was a liar? Could it be that he was crazy? Could it be that he was or is he eventually Lord? You could do the very same thing with Muhammad, for example. Even if we assumed, for the sake of the argument, that Muhammad was actually a great guy, a fantastic guy of great moral character, we could still sit down and say, okay, what does this really mean? that he is a prophet, that he's a true prophet? Or could it be that he genuinely believed in everything he said, but he had mental problems, for example?
Mm-hmm.
How can we rule that out? If we somehow found that he actually had mental problems, and that much of the stuff that he was saying was because of mental problems, and that he was crazy, then don't we have to revisit and rethink our whole conclusion that he is actually a true prophet? So how can you just say, oh, his excellent character, great morality, therefore truth? You could then apply this same logic for every single person out there who makes big claims and seems to have a good character. It's just ridiculous. You don't get anywhere with this. This is not proof. This is Islamic proof, because Islam is, when it comes to the depths and the advancement of the intellect, Islam is at the very, very bottom. It appeals to stupidity. So by Islamic standards, yes, this is maybe proof, but by by non-Islamic standards, it's definitely not.
Muhammad's character. AP, seriously, I'm trying to think, I'm totally serious here. What could you say in defense of Muhammad's character? In other words, if Muhammad Hijab were here and we said, hey, what are you actually talking about with his character? That means that he must be a prophet. His character is so amazing, you can trust him when he claims to be a prophet. What are you basing that on? It's going to have to be something like, oh, but he said, help take care of orphans and widows. And we'd be at the same thing we were with for the monotheism argument. Okay, what about these millions and millions of other people who said, take care of orphans and widows? What about those? Is that any evidence that they're prophets? No, zero. What about this guy who claims to be a prophet and he also emphasized helping orphans and widows? Is that guy a prophet? No. Well, how much evidence is that guy doing that nice thing? How much evidence is it that he's a prophet? Zero. Okay, well, when Muhammad says help orphans and widows, what kind of evidence is that? It's conclusive proof that he's a prophet. There's the only possible explanation. This is insane, guys. This is the best dawah guy they've got. This is insane. This is like idiotic. I'm trying to think of any, because keep in mind, you can have like a dumb atheist, a dumb Christian giving dumb arguments and so on. You can have random people. I can't think of any position that has like as their champions, as the heroes of their ideology, people who would say such insanely stupid things as this. Not atheists, not anyone, not Jehovah's Witnesses, not Mormons. No, I can't think of anyone who has at the top level of their defense of their position such silly nonsense. Muhammad's character proves that he's a prophet. Really? What could you point to in the character? Name anything you could point to in the character of Muhammad that would be proof that he's a prophet that you could not say about other people in a much higher degree. And you would not consider that any proof that they're a prophet, that they're prophets.
He liked cats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yes, he said don't chop down these trees. Muslims will do that. You've seen those videos. He said don't chop down those trees. Of course, in this other thing, he chopped down the trees and stuff. But over here, he said don't harm those trees. How is this possible for anyone to say something like that if he's not a prophet? They actually say this nonsense.
It's so funny because it reminds me of the joke, "Oh, Hitler liked dogs," except that Muslims are actually serious.
Yeah, they're actually serious when they say, yeah, it's a joke when you say it about someone else. It's proof when you're talking about them. Okay, let's talk about a couple issues, AP. Here, let's start with the obvious. This is Sahih al-Bukhari. Notice the chapter heading, ladies and gentlemen. Giving one's young children in marriage is permissible. You got the Muslim cowboy. It's not children. They're not children. They're women. Okay, well, your own sources call them children and immature and prepubescent and so on. But the chapter heading, giving one's young children in marriage is permissible. How could Muhammad have known this? Well, how? By virtue of the statement of Allah. And for those who have no monthly courses, i.e. they are still immature, so these are prepubescent. These are girls who don't have a monthly menstrual cycle yet. And the iddah for the girl before puberty is 3 months in the above verse. This is talking about the waiting period after you have married, had sex with, and you're divorcing a girl. How long does she have to wait before she can have sex with the next guy who marries her? And it's giving rules for marrying, having sex with, divorcing, and then the girl getting remarried and having sex with another guy. What's the waiting period? And it's specifically talking about a girl before puberty. So prepubescent girls. Muslim Cowboy says, oh, she's prepubescent. She's still a full-grown woman. 5133, and then as the example of this, 5133, narrated Aisha that the Prophet wrote the marriage contract with her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old, and then she remained with him for 9 years, i.e. till his death. So, according to Muhammad Hijab, Muhammad must be a prophet because of his character. And one of the most glaring aspects of his character is that he had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl and told his followers they can do the same. They get to do the same thing. Prepubescent girls. It's Surah 65, verse 4. It's actually quoted right there. All right, AP, do you regard this as a powerful evidence that Muhammad is a true prophet?
Yeah, I would say it's probably one of the best, most powerful arguments ever.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, I think, how could anyone say that he's going to have sex with a 9-year-old girl unless he's a true prophet? I mean, this is the proof. This is the proof, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so we've got that.
How did he know back then that having sex with little children?
Yes, how would he know that that's so good? How would
This
he
is the
know?
proof.
How would he know it's so powerful and wonderful? Surely he must be a true prophet. Let's look at another example. This is Sunan an-Nasai 34:11, ladies and gentlemen. Because Hijab is saying that his character is so great that it would make you trust him. It would make you trust what he says. I look at the exact same evidence and I conclude this is the last guy I would ever trust, ever in history. You could line up every person who's ever existed for all of history. At the people I would trust least are Muhammad and the Dawah guys. That's it. Those are the people I would trust least because of their character. And that's something to consider, ladies and gentlemen. What does Hijab do whenever he speaks? He lies. And he's telling people this is why you should believe in Islam because of these powerful arguments that are all based on lies. All right, Sunan an-Nasai 34:11. Tell me if this is someone you would trust, ladies and gentlemen. Matter of fact, maybe we should do a little poll after this. We're going to do a little poll, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to read through these three passages. Then we're going to have a nice little poll.
Yes.
On whether you would trust Muhammad based on these teachings.
And those who say I don't trust will be executed.
Yes. By Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawah. Sunan an-Nasai 34:11. It was narrated from Anas that the Messenger of Allah had a female slave with whom he had intercourse. But Aisha and Hafsa would not leave him alone until he said that she was forbidden for him. Then Allah, the Mighty and Sublime, revealed, O Prophet, why do you forbid for yourself that which Allah has allowed to you? Until the end of the verse.
You see, this is the proof.
We want the historical background here, everyone. It was narrated from Anas. The Messenger of Allah had a female slave. That's Mary the Copt. Mary the Copt. This what this is about. With whom he had intercourse. Is what the problem was not Muhammad having intercourse. They knew that was perfectly acceptable because Muhammad, whose religion is true because of his character, allowed his followers to take women and girls as sex slaves. That wasn't the issue. The issue was he got caught in Hafsa's bed. Hafsa's out running errands. Muhammad grabs his slave girl, goes to Hafsa's bed, has sex with Mary the Copt in Hafsa's bed. That's what they had a problem with. How dare you do this in the beds of your other wives? You've got wives, and you're sitting here with your slave girl in my bed, with her sweating and you sweating and getting your fluids all over my bed. She's actually ticked off about this. Let's read. So that's Sunan on the side. It's a Sahih narration. This is tafsir. What's that?
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me. That would be fun. Oh, we should make a parody of that song, dude. We should make a parody of that song.
We should.
That's the thing. You can use people's beats and so on if you're making a parody. If you're making a parody version of it,
yes.
We might need to do that. So this is Tafsir Jalalain, one of the most respected commentaries of all time. O Prophet, so this is the commentary on a passage we're about to read in the Quran. O Prophet, why do you prohibit what God has made lawful for you in terms of your Coptic handmaiden Maria, when he lay with her in the house of Hafsa, who had been away, but who, upon returning and finding out, became upset by the fact that this had taken place in her own house and on her own bed, by saying, she is unlawful for me, seeking by making her unlawful for you to please your wives, and God is forgiving, merciful, having forgiven you this prohibition. Guys, here's what happens. Muhammad is at Hafsa's house. Hafsa goes out to run some errands. Muhammad grabs one of his slave girls, has sex with her in Hafsa's bed. Hafsa comes back a little early, catches Muhammad boning his slave girl in Hafsa's bed. Muhammad says, whatever you do, just don't tell Aisha. Hafsa instantly goes and tells Aisha. And then they come back, they're harassing him. What is this? You're having sex with a slave girl in our beds? What kind of freaking pervert are you? You've got 9 wives. Are we not enough? And then if you want your slave girls, that's on you. But seriously, doing it in our beds? And then Muhammad takes an oath. He says, I swear by Allah, I will never have sex with this girl again. She's unlawful for me. She's forbidden. She's haram. He's trying to make his wives happy. Yes, I did it. I will never do it again. I will never have sex with that woman again, ever. And that calmed the wives down. But then what happened? Allah told him to go ahead and break his oath. Here we have it. It's the opening verses of Surah 66 of the Quran. Verse 1, O Prophet, why do you forbid for yourself that which Allah has allowed to you? Seeking to please your wives, and Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. So, Muhammad tells his wives, I swear by Allah, I will never have sex with that woman again. Allah comes in. Hey, Muhammad, what are you doing? What are you doing saying that you're not going to have sex with that hot young sex slave you've got there? What are you doing, man? What are you doing? And Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. Oft forgiving of what? Of Muhammad's oath. Verse 2, Allah has already ordained for you, O men, the absolution from your oaths. You can break your oaths. You can say, I swear by Allah, the creator of the universe, I will never do this. And Allah says, go ahead and break your oaths. I grant you absolution from your oaths. What?
That was a funny way of telling the story. If Allah comes in and says, Muhammad, what are you doing?
What are you doing? What's wrong with you? What are you, stupid? I tell you can bang all your slave girls and you're like, no, I'm not going to do it. What's wrong with you? Take back your oath, son.
Of course, we know that Allah was in his head here in one way or the other.
This is, yeah, one way or another. But guys, think about this. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and finish reading the passage. Allah has already ordained for you, O men, the absolution from your oaths, and Allah is your Mawla, Lord, our Master, our Protector, and He is the All-Knower, the All-Wise. And remember when the Prophet disclosed a matter in confidence to one of his wives, Hafsa. So Hafsa, please don't tell Aisha. And then she told it to another, Aisha, and Allah made it known to him. He informed part thereof and left a part. Then when he told her, Hafsa thereof, she said, who told you this? He said, the All-Knower and the All-Aware, Allah has told me. And if you continue reading, it's the rest of Surah 66 is Allah threatening to take away Muhammad's wives and to give him better wives, and telling Muhammad that if your wives are going to complain about this stuff that you're doing, you can get better wives, get rid of these wives, and I'll give you better wives. And then the rest of the chapter is giving examples of bad wives and good wives. so that Muhammad's wives would know. The good wives are the ones who mindlessly go along with whatever they're being told and who never, ever, ever, ever object to what they're being told. But guys, this is the situation. So again, going back to 34:11, it was narrated from Anas. Now that we know what this is about, it was narrated from Anas. The Messenger of Allah had a female slave with whom he had intercourse, but Aisha and Hafsa would not leave him alone until he said that she was forbidden for him. Then Allah the Mighty and Sublime revealed, O Prophet, why do you forbid for yourself that which Allah has allowed to you? Until the end of the verse. And he went back to having sex with his slave girl. After swearing that he wouldn't do it, he got a revelation, ladies and gentlemen, a revelation saying, what are you doing? You swore an oath to your wives by Allah. Break that oath. Go back to banging your slave girl. I've said it. I say it's okay to break your oath to your wives.
Stupid.
I forgive you. I forgive you. What do we think about that?
Stupid. Don't ever do that again, man. You want to bang them all. Gotta bang all of them. Don't do that ever again. Don't care about your wives. Why would you make promises to your wives? Who cares about your wives?
How did Muhammad justify marrying Aisha? He said, Allah has given me a dream of Jibreel bringing me this little tiny girl as a present. And I said, if this is the will of Allah, I'll take it. I'll take that little girl.
I'll do that.
Here's another one. Ready?
Yes. Yes. I will say that one of the only things that they will say, one of the things that they will say is that, well, he was known as a trustworthy. In fact, we are told that he would never tell a lie. Which is just, and then they will go to one hadith in which such a thing is asserted. However, you can always bring up a very nice response to that, which is the Quran itself says in many verses, and I actually made a video on that. Maybe I should clip that section just to address that issue. I made a video which I called 10 things everyone should know about Muhammad, and one point that I addressed there was that the Quran repeatedly says things like, and they say you are a liar, or it says you are not a liar, and you are not insane, and you are not this, and you are not that, and they call you a liar, but no, you don't lie, and things like that. So the Quran repeatedly says that, which shows that people around him were repeatedly accusing him of being a liar, of forging things, of taking things from other people, of just inventing things, or just retelling whatever other people told him, and all that. So he was clearly, to many people in his environment, not known as the trustworthy one, so much that this issue really preoccupied him or Allah, so that Allah had to make Quran verses on that repeatedly.
Yeah. And let's look at a couple of Allah's revelations. This is Surah 33, verse 37. And remember when you said to him, Zayd bin Haritha, so this is Muhammad, the historical background. This is Muhammad's adopted son, ladies and gentlemen. Muhammad had an adopted son named Zayd bin Haritha. Zayd was married to one of the most beautiful women in Arabia, beautiful woman named Zainab, who was also cousins with Muhammad. One day, Muhammad went over Zayd's house. He's going over to Zayd's house looking for Zayd. Zayd isn't home. Instead, he's greeted by Zainab, who was wearing almost nothing at the time. So she's basically wearing like a nightie. And Muhammad sees her. And then he walks away praising Allah. He walks away praising Allah. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah after seeing this hot chick. Zayd finds out about it and he decides to divorce her. But Muhammad knows that it will be frowned upon for him to take the wife of his own adopted son. Everyone had a problem with that. Everyone, pretty much everyone in history would say, like if I had an adopted son, I adopt a son, I raise that kid as my son, and then I see my adopted son's hot wife, and my adopted son says, oh, well, I'll let you bang her instead of me. Pretty much everyone in history would take that as some sort of problem.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, so Muhammad was worried that people would have a problem with him and think, oh, how can this guy be a prophet when he's taken the wife of his own adopted son? And so he told Zayd, no, keep your wife. Zayd said, no, I'm divorcing her. If you want her, she's yours. Muhammad married her. And then Allah has to explain why. Allah has to explain why. And he condemns Muhammad for being reluctant about marrying this super beautiful, hot chick. Here we go. This is in the Quran, ladies and gentlemen. This is Allah justifying Muhammad's marriage to Zainab, the wife of his own adopted son. And remember when you said to him, Zayd bin Haritha, the freed slave of the Prophet, on whom Allah has bestowed grace by guiding him to Islam, and you, Muhammad, have done favor by manumitting him. Keep your wife to yourself and fear Allah. So this is when Zayd says, hey, if you really got the hots for her, I'll divorce her. Muhammad says, keep your wife to yourself. Allah is really mad about this because Allah had revealed to him, by him being attracted to her, that she's his now. Muhammad gets what he wants. But you did hide in yourself, i.e. what Allah has already made known to you, that he will give her to you in marriage. Imagine seeing your adopted son's hot wife. And you think, aha, this is God telling me she's mine now. This is the prophet you're dealing with, whose character is so wonderful that he has to be a prophet, according to Muhammad Hijab. So you did hide in yourself that which Allah will make manifest. You did fear the people. You feared the people, i.e. they're saying Muhammad married the divorced wife of his manumitted slave, right? His adopted son. He was worried about what people would say. Muhammad, who's so trustworthy that he denies the revelations of Allah because he's worried about what people are going to say. Whereas Allah had a better right that you should fear him. So when Zayd had accomplished his desire from her, meaning he's done with her, so he divorced her, we gave her to you in marriage, so that so here's Allah's reasoning. Allah has to explain to the Muslim community and the critics, why did Muhammad have to? Because keep in mind, this is a revelation. People are saying, Muhammad, why are you marrying the wife of your own adopted son? And Muhammad by this time is saying, Allah told me to. Allah revealed it to me that I have to marry this super hot young woman who's married to my adopted son. I have to. Allah told me to. It wasn't me. It was Allah. Blame Allah. You got a problem? Blame Allah. Allah says I have to do this. So here's Allah's reasoning. Now Allah explains, everyone, this is why Muhammad absolutely had to marry his adopted son's wife. We gave her to you.
He had to do. He had no choice.
That's right. And it's right here, ladies and gentlemen. We gave her to you in marriage. Why? So that, here's the reason, so that in the future, there may be no difficulty to the believers in respect of the marriage of the wives of their adopted sons, when the latter have no desire to keep them, i.e. they have divorced them. And Allah's command must be fulfilled. Did you catch that, everyone? Allah says, the reason Muhammad needs to marry the wife of his own adopted son is so that other believers, other men will know that they too can marry the wives of their adopted sons. This is such an important issue. It's such an important moral struggle that men of all times and all places have to wrestle with. Should I bang the wife of my own adopted son or not? I need guidance from the Almighty on this. I'm really, really struggling with whether it's okay to bang my adopted son's wife. Am I supposed to or am I not supposed to? Is that frowned upon or is it a great thing? I just don't know. I'm so confused. This is such an important issue, according to Allah, that he not only had to give a revelation. Keep in mind, he could have just given a revelation saying, hey guys, if you want your adopted son's wives, it's okay to take them. He could have just said that, but it's so important that he had to actually have Muhammad go out and do it. That's how important it is. That's how important this struggle is to mankind, that he has to have Muhammad actually set an example by marrying the wife of his own adopted son.
I'm so glad that Muhammad did this, because otherwise, if Muhammad had not done this, how in the world would I know if I can or cannot do it, or if I should or should not be doing that? You know?
Yeah, you just wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And by the way, guys, there's an extra problem with this. And the extra problem is that because of this whole ordeal, Allah made adoption haram in Islam. It's the same chapter, verses 4 and 5. Allah outlaws adoption. He says, no, you no longer adopt people into your family. Call them by the. You can take care of an orphan, but you do not adopt the orphan. That orphan does not become part of your family. So think about this. Allah says this is such an important issue that men struggle with, whether they can marry the wives of their own adopted sons. It's such an important issue that I have to have Muhammad set an example so that all future generations will understand, yeah, it's okay to marry the wife of your own adopted son. You get a thumbs up from Allah. And yet, since Allah outlawed adoption, it's never a situation that can even arise again. There's no more adoption. You have no more adopted sons. So you're never in a position, the Muslim community is never in a position anymore for a man to marry the wife of his own adopted sons, because adoption was forbidden after this, because of this whole... Guys, if I didn't know anything else about Islam and I only knew this, that Allah comes along, hey, why is this prophet that we're supposed to believe in because of his character, why did he just take the wife of his own adopted son? What the heck is going on there? What, after he saw her almost naked? That's when he took her? Wait, what's going on here? What's up with this? The wife of his own adopted son? Are you serious? And then Allah's response is, yeah, but he has to, so that future generations will know that it's okay to take the wives of their own adopted sons. And you go, that doesn't actually sound like an issue that I've ever heard about anyone struggling with. I've never in my entire life heard about a man who's struggling with whether he can take the wife of his own adopted son. I don't think that's an important issue. That sounds like it's just Muhammad struggling with that issue. So why are you saying that Muhammad has to do this for all the other people who are going to be struggling with this issue? I'm wondering this. I'm wondering if this is a real thing or if he's just making this up as he goes along. And then Allah also reveals in the same chapter, oh, by the way, there's no more adoption, so it's a situation that will never arise again. Guys, if that's all I knew about Islam, just that Allah's saying future generations need to know that they can have the wives of their own adopted sons. Oh, and by the way, there aren't going to be any adopted sons anymore, so it's never a situation that's going to arise. If that's all I know about Islam, I would say this is complete nonsense. It's complete idiotic nonsense.
Nonsense.
And yet, this is the proof. This is somehow the proof that Islam is true. Muhammad's character. This is how you know you can trust this guy. Just going to look at one more verse here, man. One more verse. I can't resist. Same chapter. Chapter 33, verse 53. This is kind of a moral issue. It's not as bad as some of the other ones. But it's talking about trusting this guy based on his character. O you who believe, enter not in the prophet's houses. Talking to Muslims. O you who believe, enter not in the prophet's houses unless permission is given to you for a meal. And then not so early as to wait for its preparation. So don't get there early while they're still preparing it. Show up right when they're ready to eat. But when you are invited, enter. And when you have taken your meal, disperse without sitting for a talk. Don't show up early to ask Muhammad questions. And after you've eaten, don't hang out afterwards and try to talk to him. If he invites you for a meal, show up right when it's ready, eat your food, and get out. Do not ask this dude questions. Verily, such behavior annoys the prophet. What annoys him? Showing up early to ask him questions or staying after dinner to ask him questions. That annoys him. Verily, such behavior annoys the prophet, and he is shy of asking you to go. He's too shy. He's a shy guy. He's not going to say, hey, I really want to go get back to my slave girl or Aisha or stuff like this. And you're sitting here pestering me with questions about God and the universe and creation. I don't want to talk about this stuff. I'm trying to bang my sex slave here. So he says, verily such behavior annoys the prophet, and he is shy of asking you to go. But Allah is not shy of telling you the truth. And when you ask his wives for anything you want, ask them from behind a screen. That is purer for your hearts and for their hearts. And it is not right for you that you should annoy Allah's messenger, nor that you should ever marry his wives after him, after his death. Verily with Allah, that shall be an enormity. So here you have, people are showing up. Muhammad's a prophet, so they're actually interested in showing up and asking him questions about how they're supposed to live and so on. And he's annoyed, but he won't tell them. But he walks out. So Muhammad walks out one day, ladies and gentlemen, and says, I have a revelation. I wasn't going to say anything because I'm shy. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, Stop coming over to Muhammad's house and asking him questions before you eat and then hanging out afterwards and asking him more questions. He doesn't like that. He won't tell you, but I'm Allah. But Muhammad's the one delivering this, guys. Muhammad is the one saying he has a revelation saying stop annoying him. This is a guy that whose character is so perfect as the receptacle of these revelations that we can't help but trust him when we see this powerful stuff. Seriously here. All right, so we're going to have a question, ladies and gentlemen. Matter of fact, let's just go through a quick outline here. So Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl and allowed his followers to do the same thing. Married her when she was 6, had sex with her when she was 9. He married more women and girls than his own revelations allow. So he told his followers no more than 4 wives. Suddenly he got to 4 wives and wanted more. And he got a revelation. That's also Surah 33, ladies and gentlemen. That's also Surah 33. Surah 33, verse 50 says that Muhammad and only Muhammad gets to break the 4-wife limit. He received all kinds of revelations that have no purpose other than satisfying his desires. He took the wife of his own adopted son. Again, got caught having sex with his slave girls and then made an oath saying he would stop, and then gets a revelation saying that he could break the oath. Muhammad thought that he was demon-possessed. As far as his character being perfect, this is a man who repeatedly tried to commit suicide. He repeatedly tried to jump off a cliff when something would go wrong. He admittedly delivered revelations from the devil. These are the infamous satanic verses where he admits that because he wanted a revelation that would be pleasing to the pagans, he actually fell for promoting polytheism. He said you could pray to 3 pagan goddesses, Alat, Alus, and Manat. Then he came back later and said, oopsie, the devil made me do it. Muhammad was a victim of black magic. Muhammad ordered his followers to assassinate people for criticizing his religion. He repeated stories that were based on forgeries and passed them off as divine revelations. He had people executed for making fun of him. He beheaded hundreds of Jews for trying to defend themselves once they realized he was having them eliminated. Started a war with Mecca when he had a chance to live in peace in Medina, so he's gone. They didn't care about him anymore, and yet he starts a war with them. He enslaved thousands of people, allowed his followers to do what they wanted with their female captives, took the most beautiful captives back to his own tent, told his followers it's okay to beat their wives into submission, told his followers that women are stupid and that their testimony is unreliable, once tortured a man for money. Hey, this guy's got some money hidden. What should we do? Well, they lit a fire on his chest to get the information out of him. Supported his religion by robbing people. So could have just carried out some hard work and said it was, hey, let's go rob people to support our religion. And it just keeps going on and on and on. You talk about like the pagan practices, circling the Kaaba and the kissing the black stone and stuff. This is all pagan stuff. So the question, everyone, is whether you would trust Muhammad's revelations based on his character, because that was Muhammad Hijab's claim. That was Muhammad Hijab's claim, right, AP?
Yes.
His character, based on Muhammad's character. Would you trust that guy? There's a poll now. We're going to get it. We're going to let the people speak. We're going to let the people speak. You heard Muhammad Hijab say, Muhammad's character is so amazing, he has to be the receptacle of the true religion. Therefore, believe in him as a prophet. We've gone through some of his character, and I will acknowledge there are good things you could point to. So, for instance, Muhammad told his followers not to practice female infanticide, killing baby girls because you don't want to take care of girls. So there are good things you could point out. The point is, any good thing you can possibly say about Muhammad, you can say it about billions of other people down through history. What does it have to do with anyone being a prophet? That's the question. So, here's the question for the poll. Do you trust Muhammad's revelations based on his character? And go.